No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus, Discourses. Imagine being a man and spending your whole life rehearsing for a role you were never born to play, pleasing, chasing, apologizing, adjusting, giving your time, your peace, your money, all in the name of being good enough for someone who, in truth, was never even yours to begin with. If you feel a sting in that line, good. That means you're still awake, because Epictetus, yes, the slave who became a philosopher, warned us men, 2,000 years ago, if a man gave your body to any stranger he met on his way, you would certainly be angry. But you hand over your mind to anyone who comes along, to the point where it becomes disturbed and confused. Have you no shame in that? And yet here we are, grown men with calloused hands and soft spines, handing over our peace of mind to the whims of a pretty face, the approval of a partner, or the hope that she might stay. Epictetus didn't write about women to slander them. He didn't need to. He wrote to warn men of themselves, of their weakness for validation, their fear of rejection, their confusion between desire and duty. And the one thing he made clear above all was this: you do not owe your happiness to any woman. Let me say that again for the man who thinks buying roses is the same as being respected. You do not owe your happiness to any woman. And if you believe you do, then according to Epictetus, you've already surrendered the only thing the gods gave you, complete control over, your faculty of reason. In the Enchiridion, he says, keep before your eyes daily death and exile, and everything that seems terrible. But most especially, keep before your eyes that none of these things is your own, or in your power. You know what else isn't in your power? Her emotions, her decisions, her moods, her loyalty. And yet men every day wake up and willingly build their self-worth on those moving sands. They text first, they wait 3 hours for a reply, they internalize the silence, they spiral, then they Google things like how to win her back or what to text her after she pulls away. Brother, Epictetus is rolling in his Stoic grave. He taught us this cardinal truth. Some things are up to us and some are not. That's it. That's the root of all freedom. She is not up to you. Her attention is not up to you. Her affection is not up to you. What is up to you? Your principles, your reactions, your time, your purpose. If you compromise those things for the sake of keeping a woman, you've committed what Epictetus would call philosophical suicide, the death of your inner citadel. You were not put on this earth to orbit someone else's moods. You were not born to become the emotional support peasant of a woman who can't even support herself. And yet, you do it. Willingly. Why? Because no one ever taught you to say no, to her demands, to your own desperation, to the voice in your head that whispers, if I lose her, I'll be nothing. Epictetus has something for that too. He says, no man is free who is not master of himself. Let that echo inside you for a moment, because if you find yourself doing things with or for a woman that go against your values, saying yes when you mean no, holding your tongue out of fear she might get upset, agreeing just to keep the peace, you are not a partner, you're a hostage, and the ransom is your dignity. But here's the tragedy. You think that's love. You've been taught that enduring disrespect is noble, that compromising yourself is romantic, and that emotional chaos is some twisted form of passion. You confuse peace with boredom and drama with meaning, and in doing so, you dishonor the very core of Stoic wisdom. Epictetus never said, tolerate madness for the sake of love. What he said was, when someone provokes you, remember that it is your judgment that provokes you. Hold back that judgment and you are safe. Translation: if she yells, let her. If she storms out, hold the door. If she withholds affection to manipulate you, walk away. Not because you're cold, but because you're centered. Because you no longer place your emotional thermostat in someone else's hands. Because your peace is yours. Epictetus would tell you, it's not events that disturb us, but our judgment about them. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The thing a man should never do with a woman is let her rule him. Not because she's evil, not because she's inferior, but because no human being, man or woman, deserves the power to disrupt your inner life without your permission. And too many men are walking around with broken spirits and empty wallets because they forgot that. Look around. A man dates a woman who makes his life worse, and he justifies it by saying, but I love her. Epictetus would laugh in his face. He'd say, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. Don't wish to seem wise, and you'll become truly wise. In other words, if your love looks like self-destruction, maybe it's not love. Maybe it's fear in costume. Fear of being alone, fear of not being wanted, fear of starting over. And here's the kicker. Epictetus knew that fear makes slaves out of men. Emotional slaves, financial slaves, slaves to lust, to memory, to longing. So what did he say? Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. So let me ask you, is her reaction in your control? No. Is her opinion of you in your control? No. Is her loyalty guaranteed by your goodness? Never? Then why in Zeus's name have you made her the sun in your sky? You want to know what else a man should never do with a woman? Try to fix her? That's right. You think you're the hero in her mess. You think with enough patience, love and effort, you'll transform her, that she'll finally see you, love you, respect you. But Epictetus has no time for your savior complex. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. And brother, if you think you know how to change someone who doesn't want to change, you haven't learned a thing. Men waste years trying to repair what was never theirs to fix, and all the while they become smaller, apologizing for their masculinity, silencing their opinions, compromising their ambitions, all to keep a connection that only thrives when they shrink. That is not love. That is spiritual castration. And while you bleed slowly under the banner of being a good man, Epictetus is whispering from the ages. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Stop talking about self-respect. Start showing it. Stop preaching about standards. Start living by them. Because the moment your actions contradict your principles, especially for a woman, you've lost. Not just the woman, yourself. And once you lose yourself, what's left? A hollow shell dressed in compromise, laughing at jokes you don't find funny, tolerating disrespect you once swore you'd never accept, and calling it love because you're too afraid to start over. That is not stoicism. That is self-betrayal. And Epictetus, the man who taught kings and slaves alike, would not pity you. He would correct you. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. You said you wanted peace. Why then do you pursue chaos in heels? You said you wanted a queen. Why then do you tolerate a tyrant in your bed? You said you were a man, but every day you behave like a beggar of affection. Epictetus would call this tragic, not because you're weak, but because you forgot your divine birthright. Autonomy. Not isolation. Autonomy. He says, no great thing is created suddenly. There must be time. Give your best, and the rest is not yours to command. So stop forcing outcomes. Stop over-explaining. Stop trying to impress. That is not strength. That is performance. And the stage you're dancing on was built by your insecurity. You see, the man who tries too hard to win her approval will never win her respect. Why? Because the moment she senses you fear losing her, she knows she owns you. You should never do this with a woman. Let her become your judge, your therapist, and your God. Because when you do, you turn the relationship into a courtroom where she's the jury and you're always on trial. You suppress your truth, walk on eggshells, second-guess your instincts, all to avoid her disapproval. And in doing so, you dishonor the very essence of Stoic living in accordance with nature, not in fear of emotions. Epictetus teaches, it is not he who gives abuse or blows who insults you, but your opinion that these things are insulting. In other words, she may call you names, she may provoke you, but if you react, you've chosen to be disturbed. So what should you do? Be still, be unmoved, be free. But modern men don't want freedom. They want permission. Permission to feel worthy, permission to speak their mind, permission to lead, and worst of all, they wait for women to give them that permission. How far we've fallen from the wisdom of the ancients. Epictetus didn't wait to be validated. He took ownership of his soul. We are disturbed not by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens. He didn't say go get closure. He said go get clarity. Inside yourself. Because here's the truth most men avoid. The more you outsource your confidence, the more fragile it becomes. Every time you make her approval your compass, you forfeit your own direction. Every time you need her praise to feel proud, you've already lost control of your pride. And every time you chase love at the cost of your values, you are not a romantic. You are a man in exile from himself. So what must you never do with a woman? Simple. Never let her define your worth. Never let her replace your principles. Never let her emotions become the weather system of your life, because if she can make you, she can unmake you. And a man who lets himself be unmade is no man at all, just a reflection, changing with every glance, forgetting that he once stood for something. You see, men today are not failing because they are unloved. They are failing because they have forgotten how to love themselves through discipline, through boundaries, through refusal. Refusal to be swayed by temptation. Refusal to beg. Refusal to abandon their principles in pursuit of companionship. Epictetus didn't say, "Be agreeable." He said, "Seek not for events to happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will go on well." That is not a call to passivity. That is a call to detachment, to remain unshaken, to want only what is in alignment with nature. And brother, chasing a woman who disrespects you is not natural. It is needy. It is weak. It is beneath you. You were not made to orbit someone else's gravity. You were made to be still. A mountain, not a leaf. A man, not a mirror. And yet, how many times have you compromised your truth just to keep her calm? How many times have you silenced your instinct because you were afraid to upset her? How many times have you told yourself it's not worth the fight, only to die a little more inside? Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And yet we live in a world where men call themselves kings while living at the mercy of someone else's emotions. You think you're strong because you tolerate her chaos? No, you're strong when you don't need her chaos to feel alive. Because here's what they don't tell you. Many women test men not out of cruelty, but out of instinct. To see if you wobble, to see if you fold, to see if you'll trade your spine for her smile. And most of you do. With flowers, with apologies you don't mean, with promises you can't keep, and with a future you're not even sure you want anymore. But Epictetus warned us, when someone acts badly toward you or speaks badly of you, remember that he does so from an impression that it is right to do so. It is not possible then for him to follow what seems right to you, but only what seems right to him. What does that mean? It means stop trying to convince her to see your value. If she can't see it, she's not meant to. If she disrespects you, it's because her nature has determined her behavior, not your worth. And when you beg for her understanding, when you try to make her see, you are not arguing for love, you are arguing for your own unworthiness. A man should never do that. He should never plead for recognition, never debate his value, never try to teach a woman how to treat him. That is not leadership, that is surrender, and not the good kind. A Stoic does not chase. He builds, he cultivates, he becomes. And if she sees it, good. If she doesn't, even better. You've just been spared, because the woman who is meant to walk beside a man of virtue does not require him to abandon that virtue to gain her affection. She recognizes it. She aligns with it. She thrives under its calm strength, but she cannot do that if the man himself is lost, soft, shapeless, uncertain. You were not born to convince anyone to choose you. You were born to choose yourself, over and over again, especially when it's hard, especially when it means walking away, especially when you're tempted to lower your standards just to keep someone close. Because if you must betray yourself to be loved, then what you are receiving isn't love. It's tolerance. It's utility. It's conditional affection wrapped in sexual currency, and the price you pay is your soul. Epictetus never asked us to hate women. He simply asked us to love wisdom more than comfort, to love virtue more than validation, and to never confuse being desired with being respected. But most men don't want to hear that. They'd rather believe they're unlucky in love than untrained in self-respect. They'd rather blame her attitude than examine their own surrender. And that's the great tragedy. Not that women are difficult, but that men are directionless. And so they give, and give, and give. Their time, their energy, their money, their emotional bandwidth. They give so much that they forget they were born with something to protect, their peace. And here's the final warning Epictetus would leave you with. It is better to die of hunger, exempt from grief and fear, than to live in affluence with perturbation. In other words, better to be alone in truth than partnered in chaos. Better to have nothing and know who you are than to have her and not recognize the man in the mirror. So stop telling yourself you're being patient. You're not, you're afraid. Stop telling yourself you're being loving. You're not, you're addicted. Stop telling yourself it's just a phase. No, it's a test. And you're failing it by refusing to walk away. Because the one thing a man should never do with a woman is betray who he is in order to be loved by her. Once you do that, everything else collapses. Your standards, your self-image, your sense of direction, and worst of all, your ability to lead your own life. So if there's anything you've heard today that makes your stomach turn, good. That's the ancient fire waking up in you. That's the part of you that remembers you are not here to serve a throne that sits on shifting moods. You are here to build a kingdom within, unmoved, unbroken, and unbought. Let the world call you cold. Let her call you arrogant. Let the weak call you detached. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be unshaken. And if that fire in you has stirred, don't silence it. Don't run back to the numbness you used to call comfort, because the moment you begin to awaken, the world will try to rock you back to sleep. It will tell you that you're being too harsh, too closed off, too masculine. But brother, hear me. It is not harshness to have boundaries. It is not cruelty to demand respect. And it is not weakness to walk away from anything or anyone that costs you your clarity. You've been taught to be emotionally available, but never emotionally sovereign. You've been told to be vulnerable, but never invulnerable to manipulation. You've been conditioned to seek intimacy before integrity. And what has it earned you? Nights filled with second-guessing, mornings marked by regret, a heart that's been stretched so thin for others that you've forgotten how to feel it beat for yourself. But this is your turning point. Because a man who has reclaimed his peace, who has buried the urge to chase what doesn't serve him, becomes untouchable. He no longer needs to raise his voice to be heard. He no longer needs to prove his worth. He lives it. He no longer asks to be chosen. He chooses. And that terrifies the world. A man who does not beg, who does not barter his values for affection, who is willing to sit alone rather than sit beside someone who doesn't see him. That man becomes dangerous, not to women, but to the illusions that have kept him small. Let them call it loneliness. Let them say you're bitter. Let them paint you with every word that tries to shame you back into obedience. But remember this, peace does not always look like smiling on a beach with someone. Sometimes, peace looks like closing the door, locking it, and hearing your own thoughts echo back with strength. Sometimes, peace is choosing not to reply, not to explain, not to chase closure from people who only ever opened you to exploit you. And if you feel grief rising, let it. That is not weakness. That is the soul shedding its old skin. That is the death of the man you were trained to be, the pleaser, the fixer, the apologetic shadow of yourself. Let him die, because the man, rising in his place, he does not negotiate with disrespect. He does not suffer for what he cannot change, and he does not build shrines to women who only showed up to consume. You are not cold for protecting your heart. You are not broken for refusing to be used. And you are not lost just because you're not clinging to someone anymore. You are learning how to stand still in the storm. And that, my brother, is the first lesson of Stoic power. Epictetus once taught that we should act with discipline in all things, because what truly belongs to us cannot be taken. Your character is yours. Your mind is yours. Your mission is yours. And any woman who demands those things be compromised in exchange for her affection is not a partner. She is a distraction sent to test your devotion to your higher self. This world is filled with men who once had dreams and dignity and traded them for moments of touch, for glimmers of praise, for the empty high of being desired by someone who never loved their essence, only their effort. Don't be one of them. Be the man who walks with silence when needed, who waits without desperation, who desires without worship. Be the man who understands that not every beautiful woman is a blessing. Some are lessons, some are mirrors, and some are storms sent to drown what's still soft in you, so that you either rise hardened or you sink trying to hold on to what was never yours. Let go, not just of her, but of the version of yourself that needed her to feel alive. Let go of the lies that told you you weren't enough unless she clapped. Let go of the poison that made you think your masculinity had to be softened to be seen. You were not put on this earth to orbit a woman's affection. You were put here to stand firm in your truth and let those who cannot handle your strength drift away. So when she walks away, let her. When she tests your worth, remain unmoved. And when the world begs you to kneel for love, stand taller, because the man who never betrays himself loses nothing worth keeping. And that is what Epictetus would tell you. Not to fear being unloved, but to fear forgetting who you are. Not to resent women, but to revere wisdom. Not to chase affection, but to guard your peace like it is the last fire on a cold earth, because in a world designed to take from you, a man's peace is his final fortress. And if you've made it this far, if something in you still beats with that ancient rhythm, that call to build, to protect, to rise, then hold fast. Don't apologize, don't explain. Just walk forward, unshaken, unbroken, unbought. Now listen, if this message hit you, if it made you pause, reflect, or feel something burning in your chest, then do something about it. Like, share, subscribe, support the channel with the link in the description. Your support isn't just for me, it's for every man who needs to hear this and hasn't yet. Be the reason someone wakes up, be the fire they didn't know they were waiting for. Because Epictetus gave us the truth, but it's up to us to live it.